Now enjoy this fun photo collage of some of your favorite stars and politicians who speak about the need to reduce our carbon footprint, but who are always on private planes. That's right, all of them. If you don't see a celebrity's picture here, it's because we weren't allowed to use it.
Tonight's broadcast opens with a whisper that turns into a wildfire. Reports say a late-night stage in Los Angeles erupted into the most uncomfortable laughter Hollywood has heard all year. Cameras caught Bill Maher standing under a cold blue spotlight, and according to multiple outlets, he didn't spare anyone. Not the glittering eco crowd, not the politicos in designer suits, not even himself. Insiders claim the room froze as he leaned toward the mic and delivered a line that, allegedly, split the audience in half. "My name is Bill, and I fly private." From there, sources say the mood swung like a pendulum. Nervous giggles, stunned silence, then a wave of gasps as a fast-cut montage of familiar faces and very expensive runways supposedly lit up the screens. Rumors hint that some attendees exchanged sharp looks, others checked their phones, and a few slipped out the side doors before the applause could settle. Fans are shocked, timelines are on fire, and the question racing through comment sections is simple. Did Bill just crack a joke, or did he crack open the industry? Tonight, we're not saying what's true. We're following the noise, the claims, the "did you see that" posts. Buckle up, because if these reports are even half right, the fallout will be anything but quiet. The night it all happened, reports say the studio lights burned a little brighter than usual, like they knew something big was about to break. Audience members later described it as a strange kind of tension, the sort that hums just before a storm hits. Bill Maher walked out in his usual slow, confident stride, the kind that says he's done this 1,000 times. But insiders swear there was something different in his eyes that evening. Calm, maybe, but sharp, like he was holding a secret too heavy to keep. The audience clapped, the band faded, and what followed was not the smooth comedy routine they expected, but something far—
Humans are not good people. It's just not in us, including me. And I'm tired of living well, not a lie, but it's also something I never mention, but it's a new year, and I'd like to come clean. My name is Bill. And I fly private. And so does every other person who calls—
Something far more explosive. For a few moments, it was all laughs. Maher started with a few harmless jokes about Hollywood's latest obsessions: green smoothies, meditation apps, carbon-neutral perfume lines. The crowd laughed politely. The cameras zoomed in on famous faces nodding along. But then, as the laughter softened, his tone shifted. Reports say he looked straight into the camera and said, "I think we all need—"
All the environmentalists of Hollywood and Washington do it. Their position on climate change is, we must do more to stop pouring carbon into the air, except for me when I want to go somewhere and then I take a private jet.
And here's where it gets even juicier. Maher pointed out that almost every celebrity he roasted is a die-hard Democrat, the same people constantly shouting about environmental justice, climate reform, and sustainability. We've been hearing it for decades, from red carpets to political rallies to late-night Twitter rants. But after all that noise, what's actually changed? Nothing. Emissions haven't dropped, the planet isn't cooler. The only thing that's grown is their hypocrisy and their frequent flyer miles. And Maher hit them with the most brutally honest truth of all. There are two kinds of people in the world, he said. Those who fly private and those who would if they could. Now that's honesty. Because let's face it, we all know private jets are bad for the planet, but if someone handed you the keys to one tomorrow, you'd probably take the flight.
Turns out there is one thing in this world that is completely impossible to resist, and this is it. It's like heroin. If you do it once, you'll never stop. There are two kinds of people in the world, those who fly
To be honest tonight. Silence. Even the band stopped shuffling papers. "My name is Bill," he said, pausing for effect, "and I fly private." Gasps echoed across the room like tiny detonations. One audience member later posted that she thought it was part of a bit, until she saw Maher's expression. Stone still, no grin, no wink. Just the truth sitting heavy in the ointel. What happened next has been replayed on every gossip feed and newsreel since. Behind Maher, a screen flickered to life, allegedly showing a collage of celebrities and politicians, people known for their passionate speeches about climate change, smiling beside their private jets. The audience murmured. Then some laughed nervously. Maher leaned against his desk and said, "If you don't see your favorite celebrity..."
A bad environmentalist, because almost all of us are, but I can't take being a hypocrite. Now, I always justified renting a plane because I only used it for work and literally could not get to most of my stand-up gigs on time any other way. How do you think I did it all those years? I said goodnight here at 8 p.m. and was on stage in Vegas at 10. But I don't need to do stand-up.
Up there, relax. It just means we weren't allowed to use the photo. That's when the laughter turned uneasy. Several reports claim a few audience members recognized faces from their own friend circles and suddenly stopped clapping. Social media caught fire within minutes. Clips spread before the broadcast even ended, with users tagging names, drawing circles around blurred figures, and speculating who might have called the producers demanding to cut their shots. Hashtags like "No Jet Set Hypocrisy" and "Maher Bomb" started trending. What was meant to be a regular episode of political comedy quickly turned into what one columnist called Hollywood's accidental confessional. And yet, the wildest part isn't just the photos, it's what Maher allegedly said next. "We all pretend we care," he continued, voice steady but biting. But the
story, those who could but do not, does not exist. Except for Ed Begley and Greta Thunberg. And that's why you never see a picture of her smiling. Ed and Greta, that's who walks the walk. Everyone else is full of and I'm...
The truth is, we care until it's inconvenient. Insiders claim the camera cut to audience members who looked visibly uncomfortable, some whispering to each other. One actor, whose face wasn't shown in the final cut, was seen shaking his head and muttering something under his breath. Another, a well-known activist, reportedly laughed so hard it looked forced. One viewers at home didn't know whether to applaud or flinch. One fan wrote, "This isn't comedy anymore. This is therapy." Another said, "He's the only one brave enough to say it out loud." But critics fired back, calling it a publicity stunt, an attempt to stay relevant in an industry where shock sells faster than sincerity. Still, what people couldn't ignore was that Maher included himself in the accusation.
Deserves a standing ovation.
And outside of heads of state, almost everyone else could fly commercial. Why don't they? Ask anyone who tried to get home for Christmas last year. And don't tell me the younger generation is better. They're not. They're just poorer. They're actually worse. This is who they look up to. The family where everyone has their own private jet. And kids love Bitcoin, which, to determine the value of, takes an amount of computer processing that uses more electricity than some whole countries. Kids could have projected that, but they didn't. They love it. Why? Because they want to be rich.
Accusation. "I'm not pretending to be better," he said. "I'm just tired of being surrounded by people who are pretending." Behind the scenes, whispers claim that some network executives were furious. According to one unverified source, a few phone calls came in right after the taping from celebrity publicists demanding that certain shots never air. But it was too late. The internet had already immortalized the moment. Edited clips appeared with dramatic music, captions like, "He finally said it," and slow-motion zooms on Maher's expression. It wasn't just trending, it was exploding. The next morning, every outlet from gossip blogs to morning talk shows picked up the story. Headlines hinted at fallout. claiming that several celebrities were reconsidering their upcoming appearances. Paparazzi camped outside Maher's studio hoping to catch reactions. One article alleged that a famous actress called him personally.
If the Secretary of Homeland Security smuggled drugs in his butt. People take jets to environmental conferences. If you could run TED Talks on hypocrisy, you would.
Saying, "You could have just texted us instead of nuking us on national TV." Another insider claimed that Maher laughed off the backlash, saying only, "Truth is the one thing that doesn't need makeup." Interview 553-6-19. The drama didn't stop there. Political figures began weighing in. One senator tweeted, "If comedians are now exposing the truth better than our policymakers, maybe it's time to rethink leadership." That tweet was deleted an hour later, but screenshots were everywhere. Late-night hosts reacted with mock shock, saying things like, "So apparently flying private is bad now? Guess I'll cancel my next nap in the sky." The sarcasm didn't hide the fact that the message had landed where it hurt. Rumors also began to swirl that certain sponsors had quietly pulled back from future collaborations.
But sorry, not sorry. I tried to do my part for the environment. I never had kids. The one thing worse for the planet than private jets. It's true, because then they have kids. I had the first generation Prius in 2001. It looked like a Tylenol gel cap. I was always handing my keys to valets who were driving a better car than me. I had the first Tesla in 2010, and honestly, both these cars sucked. The Tesla came up to about here on me. If I had a on, I couldn't fit in this thing.
Collaborations, worried that being associated with Maher's honesty might alienate powerful names. Insiders hinted at tense meetings at HBO headquarters, where executives allegedly debated whether to issue a statement or let the fire burn out on its own. One leaked email, whose authenticity remains unconfirmed, read, "We support creative freedom, but the fallout must be managed carefully." Through all this, Maher kept silent. No tweets, no interviews, no clarifications. Just that smirk from the night before, frozen in 1,000 memes. One image, showing him pointing at the screen mid-monologue, became a viral template for captions like, "When you realize your hero's carbon footprint could power a city." Fans turned it into a joke, but others argued it was a mirror, a comedian holding up humanity's contradictions for everyone to see. By the end of the week, the conversation...
But both times, I said to myself, okay, I'll take one for the team, because I have a platform, so I'll do the right thing, and then everybody will follow, people will... Nobody followed. In 2021, 80% of new vehicles weren't electric, weren't even hybrid. They weren't even cars. They were SUVs and trucks. That's what people want. In 1973, the share of global electricity generated by coal was 38%. You know what it was 46 years later in 2019, after all the talk and all the trying? 37%. You know what percentage of plastic gets recycled? 5%. Those blue bins that are everywhere, they're not full of bottles, they're full.
Conversation had shifted from, "What did he say?" to, "Why did it sting so much?" Psychologists on talk shows claimed the reason people reacted so strongly was because hypocrisy, when exposed, hits where identity lives. Hollywood built its moral image on polished activism, and for someone from within to pull back the curtain, it wasn't just controversial, it was intimate. One panelist said, "He didn't attack them, he reflected them, and that's scarier." Interview 7-15-7, 43 reporters began digging deeper, pulling flight records, comparing public pledges to private behaviors. Though no official confirmation surfaced, the internet didn't need evidence. It needed a story, and it had one. Screenshots of jet schedules, blurred paparazzi photos, and old interviews were stitched together into long threads, accusing stars of double standards. Some accounts gained millions of views overnight. Others were flagged for misinformation, but by then the damage was done. And yet, there was another side to it. people who applauded Maher for saying what everyone whispers about. They saw him as the rare insider willing to admit his own contradictions while calling out others. "He's not perfect," one fan wrote, "but at least he's not pretending to be." Some even dubbed him Hollywood's reluctant whistleblower, though technically, he hadn't revealed anything new. He'd just made everyone look directly at it. As days passed, new rumors emerged that a few celebrities were planning a private dinner to discuss response strategy. A leaked message allegedly showed one actor writing, "We should control the narrative before it controls us." Others mocked the irony. Flying private to discuss carbon emissions wasn't exactly the best look. Late-night comedians picked up the line, turning it into a punchline that got repeated until it became folklore. Still, amid the mockery and memes, one question lingered. Why did Maher do it? Was it rebellion, exhaustion, or just good television? Sources close to him hinted it wasn't planned at all, that the confession came from frustration. Apparently, a conversation earlier that week with a young intern had set him off. The intern had told him she couldn't afford to attend a climate summit because of travel costs, and Maher reportedly muttered, "Funny, they say they want everyone involved, except the ones who can't afford the ticket." Maybe that stuck with him. Maybe that's why, when the lights came up and the cameras rolled, the joke stopped being a joke. As the first wave of controversy began to settle, another rumor sparked. Someone close to one of the exposed celebrities was preparing a tell-all interview, promising to reveal what really happens behind closed doors at those climate galas. Whether that ever airs or not, no one knows. But one thing's certain. Maher's moment on stage had cracked something open, and Hollywood couldn't quite close it again. Interview 839, 12 through all of it, he remained strangely calm. Those who've worked with him said he looked lighter afterward, like someone who had finally said something that had been sitting on his tongue for years. Maybe it was guilt, maybe truth, maybe both. But for a brief, chaotic moment, the laughter stopped, and in its place came a mirror big enough for Hollywood to see itself. Unfiltered, uncomfortable, and completely real. The backlash didn't wait until morning. Before the studio lights had even cooled, reports claimed several celebrities' teams were already making phone calls, first to their publicists, then to the network. Insiders say one representative stormed into the control room mid-broadcast, demanding that the segment be cut from future reruns. But the producers refused, citing editorial integrity. By the time the final credits rolled, Hollywood group chats were lighting up with disbelief. One anonymous insider described it best. You could feel the panic through the emojis. Social feeds filled with theories. Clips circulated with zoomed-in stills of recognizable faces during the live audience shots. An actress looking away, a singer biting her lip, a politician's uncomfortable laugh. Commentators began labeling each freeze frame like an investigation board, caught reacting, pretending to clap, trying not to be seen. Even tabloids that usually worship celebrity glamour suddenly turned on their favorite stars, calling it the week the masks slipped. By dawn, commentators were dissecting every word Maher said as if it were evidence in a trial. Some praised his honesty, others accused him of betrayal. One veteran talk show host commented, "You don't call out your own dinner party while you're still eating at the table," implying Maher had broken an unspoken industry rule. Criticize outsiders all you want, but never your peers. Still, for many watching at home, that was exactly why the moment resonated. It wasn't sanitized, it was raw. In the days that followed, more rumors spread. A supposed recording leaked from inside a high-profile charity event where several of the celebrities mentioned were present. People allegedly heard fragments of a heated conversation. A famous actress saying, "He thinks he's the only one allowed to be honest?" And another voice replying, "He's just jealous because he doesn't get invited anymore." The clip was never verified, but that didn't stop millions from replaying it. Hashtags like Yush Mahergate and Truth Bomb trended globally. Meanwhile, outside his Los Angeles studio, a crowd gathered. Some carried signs calling him a hero. Others accused him of hypocrisy. One protester shouted, "You can't expose the system if you're part of it." Another yelled back, "At least he admitted it?" Reporters struggled to get a clear statement. But Maher, according to eyewitnesses, walked past quietly, hands in pockets, offering a half-smile that looked more amused than apologetic. Behind closed doors, things got even messier. Sources inside the network claimed there was an emergency meeting between executives and sponsors. One beverage company allegedly paused its advertising deal, fearing association with controversy. A major streaming partner supposedly demanded assurances that future episodes would be less inflammatory. Despite all that, the ratings soared. The episode broke viewership records, making it the most watched segment of the season. Irony piled on irony. Scandal had become success. Interview: 10, 11, 10, 21 at the same time. Fan reactions took an unexpected turn. Comment sections filled with people confessing their own hypocrisies. One viewer wrote, "I recycle every week but drive a gas guzzler. Guess I'm no better." Another said, "Finally, someone in Hollywood said what everyone knows but won't admit." The discussion that started as gossip began morphing into something closer to collective confession. Even environmental groups reluctantly joined in, posting statements about embracing transparency. But not everyone was forgiving. A well-known actor, rumored to have been featured in the background collage, reportedly reached out to Maher privately. The conversation, according to someone close to the situation, didn't go well. "You made me look like a hypocrite in front of millions," the actor allegedly said. Maher's response, as retold by the same source, was simple: "You did that yourself." Whether true or not, the quote spread like wildfire, turning into a viral meme captioned over red carpet photos. As more details surfaced, it became clear that the fallout wasn't limited to Hollywood. Political circles in Washington started feeling the tremors. Climate advisors, senators, and even a few high-profile campaign donors were suddenly being questioned about their travel habits. One aide was overheard muttering, "It's like he opened Pandora's hangar." Environmental reporters began digging into flight logs, and the results, though inconclusive, only added fuel to the fire. Through all this, Maher still hadn't made a public statement. He skipped interviews, avoided comment, and didn't appear on social media. That silence became its own story. Journalists speculated whether he was being advised to lay low or simply enjoying the chaos he created. One columnist wrote, "Maher doesn't need to defend himself. He already made everyone else do it for him." The following Friday, when his show aired again, audiences tuned in expecting an apology, or at least a clarification. Instead, he opened with a smirk and said, "So, how's everyone's carbon footprint this week?" The crowd erupted, half laughed, half groaned, and the rest waited to see how far he'd go. What followed wasn't as fiery as before, but just as cutting. He joked about buying carbon offsets in the form of guilt, mocked the trend of eco-luxury, and ended with, "Don't worry, I'm still flying private. Just slower to make it look responsible." Fans went wild. Critics doubled down. But behind the laughter, there was a new tension in Hollywood circles. People who once felt safe making moral statements now hesitated. Publicists reportedly advised clients to avoid environmental commentary for a few weeks. One director postponed the release of a climate-themed documentary, fearing it would be overshadowed by the Maher narrative. Insiders whispered that the industry was experiencing what they called virtue fatigue, where every moral stance started to look suspicious. Then came the unexpected twist. A popular influencer posted a lengthy video claiming that Maher's outburst wasn't spontaneous at all. According to her sources, it was part of a larger, scripted stunt designed to spike ratings and reposition Maher as Hollywood's rebel truth-teller. She claimed production assistants had pre-selected the photos and rehearsed camera angles. Fans divided instantly. Some said, "Of course it was planned. Everything on TV is." Others argued, "You can't fake that kind of reaction." The network issued a short statement calling the allegations completely unfounded, but that only deepened suspicion. Commentators pointed out that the show's marketing budget had mysteriously increased the week before the episode aired. Conspiracy threads blossomed overnight. People debated whether Maher was a whistleblower or a clever marketer disguised as one. One viral tweet summed it up. Either he's the bravest man in Hollywood or the smartest at playing us. As the debate raged, a more personal story emerged. Someone claiming to be a former friend of Maher's gave an interview saying he'd been struggling privately with guilt over years of speaking about social issues while living in luxury. He's always been self-aware, the friend said. But lately he started asking whether honesty still mattered in a world built on branding. That statement softened public opinion a bit, painting him less as a schemer and more as a man cracking under the weight of contradiction. Meanwhile, the celebrity camp that felt targeted wasn't backing down. A group chat between several high-profile actors allegedly turned into a plan for a joint public campaign promoting positive environmental storytelling. But leaked screenshots showed them arguing instead. One wrote, "This isn't about the planet anymore, it's about our image." Another replied, "The planet's been about our image for years." That leak hit tabloids like a grenade. By the end of the second week, talk shows were treating the entire saga like a serialized drama. Anchors spoke about it with the tone of soap opera narrators. Will Hollywood forgive him? Is honesty the new rebellion? Memes compared Maher to a villain turned anti-hero. Think pieces sprouted across the internet debating whether he had accidentally become the conscience of an industry allergic to self-reflection. Throughout it all, Maher continued his usual schedule, performing stand-up sets, appearing at events, and smiling whenever reporters shouted questions. The more he refused to engage, the more people wanted him to. It was as if silence had become his punchline, the final joke none of his critics could top. Still, beneath the noise, something had shifted. Industry insiders whispered that after his viral episode, several production houses began quietly reviewing their environmental initiatives, not out of guilt, but fear of being the next target. One executive allegedly said, "We can't get caught looking fake again. Audiences smell it now." That alone proved Maher's point. Even if unintentionally, as the media frenzy rolled on, one thing became clear, whether calculated or not. The night Bill Maher came clean had become a turning point, not just for him, but for the illusion of virtue that Hollywood had worn like designer cologne for years. And for better or worse, no amount of spin could erase that image of a man under the lights, admitting the one truth nobody else dared to say aloud. Days later, the chaos took a stranger turn. Reports surfaced claiming that several Hollywood elites had quietly unfollowed Bill Maher on social media, an act that fans treated like a public declaration of war. Entertainment outlets began compiling lists. The stars who ditched Maher, complete with side-by-side screenshots, timestamps, and fiery speculation. A gossip columnist joked that Hollywood had entered the great unfollowing. Beneath the humor, though, insiders say the tension was very real. One source close to a well-known actor revealed, "People aren't sure whether to publicly support him or stay silent. Everyone's waiting to see which way the wind blows." Interview 11/16/11/57. At the same time, a new rumor started spreading online, one that made everything worse. According to an anonymous post on an industry forum, the controversial photo collage Maher showed wasn't the only version. The poster claimed there existed an extended cut, allegedly including even more famous faces, ones too powerful to air. Within hours, conspiracy accounts began calling it the forbidden reel. They claimed producers had been pressured by studios and politicians to cut certain names out before broadcast. No evidence ever appeared, but it didn't matter. People wanted to believe it. The myth of a secret list turned the story from comedy into legend. News talk shows debated the mystery relentlessly. One commentator said, "It's not just about who flies private, it's about who controls what we get to see." Another countered, "Come on, this is entertainment, not espionage." Still, the rumor had life. YouTube commentators posted exaggerated thumbnails showing blurred faces behind red question marks. Every blurred celebrity became a suspect. Fan detectives scoured old flight data and paparazzi shots, connecting dots that didn't even exist. For a week straight, Hollywood's biggest secret was a thing that might not have existed at all. And yet, behind the memes and mock investigations, something more personal was brewing. According to sources close to Maher's staff, the comedian himself had started receiving both praise and hate mail in staggering volumes. Handwritten letters poured into the studio, some thanking him for telling the truth, others accusing him of selling out his peers. One report claimed security had been quietly increased outside the building. After a few threatening messages appeared online, insiders say Maher brushed it off, telling his team, "If honesty comes with hate mail, that means it worked." But the fallout kept growing. Entertainment agencies started sending out internal memos reminding their clients to practice discretion when addressing environmental issues publicly. One publicist even leaked an excerpt from a panic email that read, "Do not post about climate activism unless approved. Audiences are scrutinizing everything." Late-night shows that once joked freely about saving the planet began treading carefully, avoiding the topic altogether. As one writer put it, Hollywood went green with silence. Meanwhile, fans began noticing curious behavior from celebrities once linked to the controversy. A famous pop star who'd frequently posted about sustainability suddenly deleted every post referencing climate change. Another actor who'd promoted electric cars now claimed to be focusing on mental health and skipped a high-profile environmental gala. Critics called it cowardice. Defenders said they were protecting their peace. Either way, the silence was deafening. Then came a twist no one saw coming. During an unrelated red carpet event, a reporter shouted a question to one of the celebrities rumored to have been in Maher's collage. Instead of ignoring it, she snapped. "You think it's easy?" she said, visibly emotional. "You think people can just walk everywhere? Some of us have jobs, commitments, families." The clip exploded online, drawing both sympathy and ridicule. One viral comment read, "Nothing says saving the planet like yelling about how hard it is to give up your jet." Overnight, that clip became the defining symbol of Hollywood's defensive meltdown. Inside the comedy world, reactions were divided too. A few fellow comedians publicly supported Maher, calling his monologue a gutsy return to truth. Others accused him of grandstanding, claiming he'd used controversy as fuel for relevance. One even joked on stage, "Bill's out here saving the planet one career at a time, starting with his own." Still, the attention only made him more popular. Attendance at his live shows tripled. Tickets sold out in hours. What was meant to be a roasting had turned him into an anti-hero. Reports also hinted that the scandal was now bleeding into politics. A Senate hearing on climate funding allegedly saw a representative reference Maher's monologue during a debate. "Even comedians see the hypocrisy," the congressman said, sparking laughter and groans. Environmental lobbyists reportedly cringed as his quote made headlines. Suddenly, what began as a joke on television was shaping national talking points. Pundits started calling it the Maher effect. Through all of this, one mystery deepened: the supposed extended collage. Insiders kept denying its existence, but new whispers suggested someone on the production crew had saved raw footage. One anonymous source told a journalist, "If people saw what didn't make the cut, the internet would explode." Soon, speculative podcasts devoted entire episodes to decoding clues, even comparing lighting angles and reflections in the background to guess which photos had been cropped out. Fans joked it was Hollywood's own Zapruder film. And yet, amid the noise, something else shifted. Younger audiences began rewatching Maher's earlier work, looking for signs of his evolving attitude. Old clips resurfaced where he'd joked about the hypocrisy of fame, and fans started calling him the prophet of contradictions. One post summed it up perfectly. "He's not exposing Hollywood, he's exposing human nature." Even critics grudgingly admitted there was something fascinating about how a single televised confession had snowballed into a cultural reckoning, but not everyone found it inspiring. An insider close to one of the major studios leaked that several producers were now hesitant to invite Maher to future award ceremonies or charity galas. "He's radioactive," the insider said. "Nobody wants to risk being the next punchline." Yet at the same time, smaller independent creators rallied behind him. Podcasters, satirists, and stand-up comics began quoting him, calling his outburst a comedy revolution. One late-night newcomer even said, "He gave us permission to stop pretending." Interview 12:55-13:48 then. Almost poetically, nature added its own twist. A sudden heat wave hit California that week, prompting renewed debates about climate action. Social media users flooded timelines with sarcastic comments like, "Hollywood's prayers didn't stop this one." Environmental activists tried to refocus the conversation on real solutions, but the public was too busy turning the scandal into entertainment. Memes showed Maher's face photoshopped over movie posters with titles like "Truth Turbulence" and "Fly Private or Die Trying." The absurdity only fueled more engagement. Somewhere in the middle of all this, a softer story appeared, one that few noticed. An assistant producer who'd worked on the show anonymously told a small blog that Maher had looked drained but peaceful after the broadcast. "He didn't celebrate," she said. "He just sat backstage, staring at the floor. After a while, he said, 'Maybe now they'll finally talk about what matters.'" Whether that's true or romanticized, it gave the moment a strange poignancy. Still, Hollywood wasn't ready to let it go. In the following days, major outlets began publishing exclusive responses from unnamed sources close to the stars allegedly featured in the collage. One claimed Maher had crossed a line between comedy and cruelty. Another said he had weaponized honesty. But a third, more daring quote stood out. "He didn't cross a line. He erased one." The sentence went viral, and for a brief moment, the internet seemed divided not by outrage but by awe. And as more layers peeled back, it became clearer that this story wasn't just about one man's confession. It was about an entire culture addicted to moral theater. Maher had thrown a stone at the glass castle, and instead of shattering, it revealed just how fragile the walls really were. Whether he meant to or not, he'd forced Hollywood and everyone watching to confront their reflection. And maybe, deep down, that's what made it so unforgettable. The following week began with an eerie calm. Like the eye of a storm, talk shows had milked the controversy dry. Influencers had moved on to the next viral scandal, and yet something about the air felt unfinished. Reports said Hollywood was quieter than usual. Not peaceful quiet, but the kind that comes when people are waiting for the other shoe to drop. Producers whispered about the fallout phase, where the jokes fade and the consequences settle. But Bill Maher didn't fade. He resurfaced with a new monologue that, according to insiders, made the original look like a warm-up. The studio audience that night came in expecting a softer tone, maybe even an apology. Instead, Maher walked out smiling, leaned on his desk, and said, "I see everyone survived the turbulence." The crowd erupted, half cheering, half bracing. "They said I should clear things up," he continued. "So here's the clarification. I meant every word." The audience roared again, but beneath the laughter was a strange electricity. According to people present, even the camera operators were wide-eyed. It wasn't just comedy anymore. It felt like a rebellion in slow motion. This time he didn't name names or flash faces. Instead, he told a story. He spoke about a dinner party he once attended, where every guest made grand speeches about saving the planet. He described how the room sparkled with wine, glasses, and words like change, consciousness, and carbon neutrality. And then, he said, one of them checked their phone to see if their jet was ready for takeoff. The crowd laughed, but it was the kind of laughter that carries guilt. "We don't want to fix the world," he said. "We want to fix our reputation." According to viewers, that line hit harder than any punchline could. Meanwhile, as the clip circulated, reactions behind the scenes grew even more volatile. An unnamed producer allegedly told reporters that several stars had privately threatened to boycott future episodes unless the network reined him in. Others suggested he should be encouraged to step away from hosting for a while. But every attempt to silence the noise only made it louder. The episode's viewership doubled, then tripled, climbing faster than any of the show's previous broadcasts. A tweet reading, "The man just won the internet again" became the most shared post of the week. But it wasn't just the ratings that worried Hollywood. It was the conversations he'd ignited. Podcasts began dissecting not only the hypocrisy he exposed, but also the deeper rot in celebrity culture. "What happens when good causes become fashion accessories?" one commentator asked. Even ordinary fans started questioning the sincerity of their favorite stars. "I used to admire their activism," one fan wrote, "but now I wonder if they just hire good photographers." For an industry built on image, doubt is poison, and Maher had poured it freely. As rumors continued, a new narrative emerged from within Hollywood itself. One insider claimed that a group of actors were now trying to stage what they called a redemption summit, a televised charity event where prominent figures could recommit to authentic climate action. According to leaked messages, the plan was to donate proceeds to green initiatives while subtly reclaiming the moral high ground. But before the event could be confirmed, critics online mocked it as the world's first eco-rebrand. One viral comment said, "Nothing screams authenticity like a marketing campaign for authenticity." The event never happened. Still, the tension spilled into unexpected places. A luxury fashion label that had built its image on sustainability reportedly lost a major endorsement after its ambassador was seen boarding a private jet the same week as the scandal. Another company quietly rebranded its climate initiative, removing celebrity faces from its advertisements altogether. One analyst noted, "For the first time, the public didn't buy the illusion. They wanted proof, not promises." Maher hadn't just sparked outrage, he'd shifted the economy of virtue. Amid all this, new allegations emerged that his next episode would feature even more explosive commentary. Tabloids claimed he was preparing a follow-up called "The Truth Still Flies Private," though no such title ever aired. Still, fans waited eagerly, speculating on what he'd say next. When the episode finally premiered, he surprised everyone by turning the camera on himself. "Look," he said, "I'm not a saint. I fly private. I eat meat. I enjoy hot showers. I'm not pretending to be pure. But maybe that's the point. Honesty shouldn't be revolutionary." For a second, the audience went completely silent, then broke into applause that lasted long enough to delay the show's next segment. Those who knew Maher personally claimed that this was the real him, not the provocateur, but the cynic trying to find truth in the noise. One close associate reportedly told journalists, "He's tired of pretending that laughter fixes everything." This time, he wanted to make people uncomfortable enough to think. And it worked. Across social media, users began tagging each other in clips of his new speech, with captions like, "This hit harder than any protest," and "He said what we all secretly feel." But as the spotlight burned brighter, so did the personal strain. One gossip magazine ran a story claiming that several of Maher's longtime friends in the entertainment world had distanced themselves, fearing association with the backlash. Others claimed he'd lost potential brand deals worth millions. But insiders say he didn't seem to care. "He knew what he was risking," said a crew member. "But he kept saying, 'If truth costs money, then I'm paying in full.'" The irony, however, was impossible to ignore. While Hollywood scrambled to defend its image, Maher's brand of defiance turned him into a cultural phenomenon. Talk shows that once dismissed him now quoted his jokes as if they were gospel. Even politicians started referencing his speech, some agreeing, others trying to twist it to suit their agenda. One senator quipped during a hearing, "Maybe we should ask Bill Maher how to lower emissions. He's already deflated half of Hollywood." That line went viral, turning the debate into another round of entertainment. By now, what started as a one-night confession had snowballed into a cultural reset. Hollywood was still talking about the scandal months later, but the tone had changed. What once sounded like anger had turned into reluctant respect. One director, previously critical, said in an interview, "He didn't expose anyone we didn't already know was guilty. He just said it out loud." Fans echoed that sentiment. "He said what we think every time we see a celebrity crying about the planet from a penthouse." And then, as if to close the circle, Maher gave one final jab before signing off one night. Maybe the planet doesn't need more speeches, he said. Maybe it just needs less pretending. The crowd erupted into a standing ovation. Reports say some laughed, some cried, but everyone knew they just watched something that would linger long after the applause died down. In the weeks that followed, things began to settle. The outrage cooled, the hashtags faded, but the shift remained. Hollywood's relationship with its own morality had changed, even if slightly. Event organizers started tracking travel emissions. Actors began promoting local projects instead of global ones, and social media posts about sustainability became quieter, less performative. For once, people were trying, not to impress, but to mean it. And somewhere, far from the noise, Maher reportedly went back to his old routine. Stand-up gigs, studio tapings, late-night writing sessions. Those who saw him backstage said he seemed lighter, like a man who had finally let go of the burden of silence. He still joked about flying private, still made the audience laugh. But every so often, when the laughter faded, he'd pause for a moment and say softly, "Honesty's expensive, but it's worth the ticket." That line became its own kind of legend, quoted on social media, printed on t-shirts, whispered in podcasts. It was the perfect ending to a scandal that was never really about jets or jokes, but about something deeper. The courage to say the thing everyone knows, but no one dares to admit. And for a world addicted to pretending, that might be the most uncomfortable truth of all. So, what do you think? Was Bill Maher brave for saying what everyone else in Hollywood keeps quiet about? Or was it just another clever stunt dressed as honesty? Reports say the debate isn't dying anytime soon, and neither is the tension he exposed. One side calls him the only man in Hollywood who still dares to tell the truth, while others claim he turned hypocrisy into performance art. Whichever side you're on, one thing's clear. He made an entire industry look in the mirror, and the reflection wasn't pretty. Some fans are already calling it a turning point, saying this might change how celebrities talk about causes forever. Others aren't so sure, arguing that it's only a matter of time before the next speech, the next jet, the next scandal. Maybe the real lesson isn't about the rich or the famous. It's about all of us. The people who cheer for good intentions but ignore our own contradictions. Maybe that's why his words stuck. Not because they were shocking, but because they were true. Now it's your turn. Do you think Hollywood will actually change after this? Or will it all fade like last year's promises? Drop your thoughts below. I want to hear your take. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button. Share this video with someone who still believes celebrity activism is pure. And make sure you subscribe for more stories that dig beneath the glitter. Because here, we don't just follow the headlines, we follow the fallout.